Alright, so by now you probably, or at least I hope you've heard of Syria, but you might not know exactly what's going on and everything. So, basically, in Syria, the UN believes that Syria government, headed by Assad, might have used chemical weapons against rebel forces, ultimately resulting in some civilian casualties. This is seen to be as an atrocity since chemical weapons have really not been used at all and agreed upon not to be used for many, many decades. But really what's going on is that there's this civil war going on in Syria between the government headed by Assad and rebels. So there's this constant conflict going on, and in the Middle East there's been conflict for like 2,000 years, always conflict of these different religious groups going on. Yet now the U.S. thinks that, well, they have thought since for like the past, whenever we got into Iraq, so for like 12, 13 years, they've thought that we can fix the problem in the Middle East. But really, we're not able to. But anyway, there's a civil war going on, and there's a lot of different allies and allegiances that must be noted. So with Syria, they're allied with Russia, and they have they have ties with Iran, and Iraq leader that we just put into power supports the government, Assad, the one that is allegedly used chemical weapons. So now the United States wants to get involved, and we don't know for sure if there was chemical weapons used in Syria. The UN went into the supposed site of these chemical attacks, but their convoy was shot at by a sniper. Now, we don't know because the government says that the rebels were the ones who were shooting at them, and the rebels say no, it was the government that was shooting at them, so we can't really be sure. Anyway, we got to the site and we're still trying to figure out if there really was chemical weapons used. John Kerry, the Secretary of the State, says that there was undeniably chemical weapons used. So right now, we have 4 warships within cruise missile range of Syria, and supposedly reports have shown that there might be nuclear subs also within range of Syria to attack. Now the issue with this comes in the fact that Congress really needs to approve of all acts of war before we can engage in war. That's in the Constitution of the United States. And there's this quote from Obama that he was actually just questioned upon. His quote was in a 2007 interview when he was a presidential candidate, and this is what he said. He said, "The President does not have the power under the Constitution to unilaterally authorize a military attack in a situation that does not involve stopping an actual or imminent threat to the nation." The White House spokesman was asked about this in a news conference today, and this was his response. "As I made clear, it is clearly in the United States national security interest that the norm be maintained because the consequences of that standard dissolving, this is the standard of not using chemical weapons, the consequences of that standard dissolving are enormous and very detrimental to the United States and very detrimental to the international community, to our allies and partners in the region, and the world at large." This was his response. But also in that same interview, he was also questioned. This is what he said. Let's see. He pointed out that 189 countries have signed on to the Chemical Weapons Convention that bans the use of such weapons. This represents about 98% of the global community. So he said that letting Syria use these chemical weapons will result in the dissolving of this standard of not using chemical weapons, but he also just said that 98% of the world signed into this convention that bans these chemical weapons. So is he talking about that small 2% of the world that's going to dissolve and create a threat to the whole world? I don't think so. So it's just kind of confusing. And also, what imminent threat is the actual what imminent threat does Syria actually pose to the United States? They're in a civil war. What is it our business going into that civil war and telling them what to do? Either we're going to be supporting the rebels to overthrow the government, and the rebels have clear links to Al-Qaeda, and if you don't remember, Al-Qaeda was responsible for the 9/11 attacks, so we're either supporting Al-Qaeda indirectly through supporting the rebels in Syria, or we're supporting the Assad government, which we're not going to do because they supposedly use chemical warfare against their citizens. Also, if we support the rebels, we're also going against the newly formed Iraq government, which is supporting General Assad the leader of the government in Syria. So really there is no clear-cut way that we can come out of this good. Also, if that doesn't top it all off, China, Russia, and Iran told us, stay out of Syria, this is none of your business. You don't want to get involved in this. So Russia and China and Iran are all saying, don't get involved, this is none of your business, and we really want to send some missiles in there. Is that going to really help us? That might result in like a World War III if we have Russia and China pissed off. China basically owns us with all the debt. I think it's like $5 trillion almost that they have bought of our debt, so I don't really think we want to be getting into any conflict where we might piss China off and then they recall our debt. We shouldn't be trying that. So that's just something to think about on a wonderful Wednesday evening. Ah, man.